All right, let's do it. Let's do ceilings and floors for all of these teams. Unlike the other ones where we kind of bounced around, with the Big 12, I feel like, again, it's a very evenly matched league. We're going in alphabetical order, and we will start with one of the newcomers, the Arizona Wildcats. We last saw them beating Oklahoma in the Alamo Bowl. All signs were pointing up. And then Jedd Fisch gets hired away by Washington after Kalen DeBoer left Washington for Alabama. But what we thought would happen after that did not happen, because when Jedd Fisch left for Washington, my assumption was a good chunk of this roster was going to Seattle. That did not happen. Noah Fifita, the quarterback who took over last year for Jaden DeLora, that was probably the biggest thing that shifted for them, that got them hot, that turned them into the hottest team in the country. But Noah Fifita, and then you got Tetairoa McMillan, who is maybe the best receiver in the country. We'll see. I mean, Jeremiah Smith at Ohio State, everybody's excited about as a freshman, but T-Mac is one of the best players in the country. He stayed. Tetairoa Davis, the cornerback, stayed. A lot of those guys who came in 2022 in that first full cycle high school class that Jedd Fisch signed decided to stay together in Tucson. And Ari, I think they bring back, with Brent Brennan taking over, a team that can very much win the Big 12.
And I mean, the fact that they did that and the names you just mentioned, Andy, is shocking in this day and age in college football. And I think what helped Arizona was, number one, Fifita, obviously staying. And then, McMillan, what he did was he just kind of hung around, like, all right, let's see what these new guys are all about. And obviously he was, very attracted to what they were doing. And so he decided to stay. So I think, Fifita staying played a crucial role in this. Without the quarterback, McMillan's gone, and it doesn't matter how McMillan views the future of the coaching and quarterback position. And then I think because McMillan and Fifita stayed, that created a domino effect on defense with some of those guys staying. So coming into the league, I think there's about as much excitement around Arizona as there is anybody else. But here's my question to you, Andy. Can they play Big 12 style football? Because the evolution of the Big 12 now, with spread offense that throw the ball a ton, Iowa State, then John Haycock, they run a ton of 3-3-5, which is now all over college football, the rush 3, drop 8. Now you look at the Big 12, it's one of the best rushing conferences in college football, because if you're rushing 3, what are you going to do? You're going to constantly run on those teams to force them to play you more evenly. So a lot of Big 12 teams have done that. Arizona is not built like that. They lost Jordan Morgan along their offensive line. I have major question marks about the offensive line coming back and the running game situation. We know they have one of the most potent passing offenses in college football. They've got, as you mentioned, arguably the best wide receiver in college football, and certainly one of the best quarterbacks in this conference. And arguably, we'll see what he can do this year, one of the best in college football. But it's the offensive line and the running backs, the personnel, that I'm a little concerned about. If Utah is built to play Big 12 style, quote unquote, which is more power football now. I wonder if Arizona, like, there's some teams, Iowa State will rush 3 to death on you and force you to have to run the football if you can't. That's my question with Arizona heading into year 1 of the Big 12.
Yeah, that's going to be a very interesting development. And maybe having a fresh set of eyes in Brent Brennan helps with that. It's interesting because Brent Brennan was actually a finalist when Jedd Fisch got hired. So this is one that it feels like, as that situation, that handoff could have gone, it could not have gone any smoother. Like we said, schedules matter. Like we said, where you play teams matter. Arizona's got the toughest 2-game stretch in league play in the league. Now there's an open week in between these games, but they've got to go to Kansas State and to Utah in consecutive games. We could know by the end of September where Arizona stands in terms of where they fit among the best teams in the conference.
Yeah, well said. And certainly we can argue about where teams will be slotted throughout the conference, but Kansas State, Utah, overwhelmingly the 2 favorites in this league right now. And it's hard to disagree with that. I mean, and then not only that, but BYU, I mean, you think about Salt Lake and Provo are 2 of the toughest places to play, great environments. And then you mentioned
also
Orlando.
Go to UCF.
Yeah. And not only is the bounce house a tough place to play in Orlando, but I mean, think about the trips. It's funny. We've had a lot of West Virginia coaches on whether it be baseball, football, basketball. They're all like, yep, get ready. We've been dealing with this for a long time now. Now the rest of the league is going to see what we've had to go East Coast to West Coast. So yeah, that'll be a tough one too for Arizona to go UCF. They may have the toughest road schedule of any of the quote unquote contenders based on having to go UCF, BYU, and Utah and K-State.
I would agree with that. So my ceiling on this, and the way we've been doing ceilings are, is if a team can win its conference, if it can make the playoff in any way, shape, or form, I just say the ceiling is the playoff. And that could mean winning the league, that could mean going 11-1, losing the championship game, and then still getting it as an at-large. Right. I think that's probably a good basket to put it in. And then if I feel like they can advance, we mentioned that. With the Big 12 teams, I like with Arizona, I'm not sure they would advance if they make the playoff. But there's other ones I think that might. But I'm going to put CFP as their ceiling. I think they can either win this league or be an at-large, if all goes right. And that's really, like, with the ceiling, it's an all goes right situation. With the floor, this is an utter disaster. All has gone wrong. Like, a lot of your coin flip games you lost. But I still think this team has such a nice core about it. Like, I'm going to put their floor at 7-5. I think they're going to be a pretty good team no matter what.
I agree with you there. Every fiber in my body wants to say, like, the Arizona's set up for a disappointing year this year, given what we talked about in terms of their running game. With that being said, you're totally right about the Brennan transition. If you're going to have to change over offensive coordinator, head coach, this is probably the way to do it with a guy that has that familiarity, and a guy that understands that, hey, I'm not going to switch too many things up. I want to keep a lot of things the same so that I can take advantage of Fifita and McMillan. Those guys are just too talented to think that this team, its floor is anything lower than a bowl game. So I agree with you there. I just don't know that their ceiling is to compete for a Big 12 championship. Again, I'm huge on Fifita and McMillan. I think the offensive line questions, losing a guy like Jordan Morgan, how good he's been, and then not only the offensive line, but then the running game. It's not like they had a robust running game last year, and I don't like what they have from a personnel standpoint. I know their passing game is really good. I just think this league forces you to have to run the football, and I question whether or not they can do that. So I'll say ceiling's 8 wins, floor is 6 wins.
Interesting. All right. Thank you so much for watching. Just a reminder, subscribe to this channel right here so you never miss an episode of Andy Staples on 3. And oh, by the way, watch all the other great videos on the On3 Sports YouTube channel.